Beautiful people, whether you are joining us via audio podcast or via YouTube, you know that you are tuned into State of the Strong. This is a Bull Brand podcast. Libito Lakakele Rai, and I am not alone as usual. I am joined by the one, the only, the handsome,
yes, sir,
the supercalifragilistic. Oh my gosh.
What's up, guys? My name is Simon Banza. Welcome back to the States of the Strong. As she said, I'm very excited to be back. This is one that, you know what, whenever they bring people that I look up to, me, I just lose my mind already. And so I'm very excited for this one. How are you doing, Lerai?
I'm so happy. We've got a beautiful lady joining us today, and she has got an even more beautiful voice.
Yep.
And so we're going to dig into all of that.
Listen, guys. She's a podcaster. She's a YouTuber. Honestly, to me, she is one of the best digital storytellers in South Africa right now. And you can argue with me. You can come here to the offices. Ladies and gentlemen, Nyatsumba. Hi, I'm Dasi.
Hi, I'm Dasi.
How are you?
Guys? I'm good. How are you?
It's good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. What a lovely introduction.
Thank you. We try here, man. This is
I love that.
Okay, listen, we're about to get into a lot today.
Okay.
But first, we have a pre-game ritual. It's the game.
Yes.
This is called 60 Seconds of Strong. We've got a bunch of pieces of paper in this jar. You guys know the deal. And you have to get through as many as you can in 60 seconds.
Okay.
Just follow the prompt.
Gotcha.
Are you ready?
Yes.
My timer is ready.
I need to just prep everything nicely,
Let's help her a little bit. Not too much. I call favoritism. Yeah.
Oh.
I call favoritism.
You must favor me.
Okay. Are you ready? Okay,
Yeah.
let me keep this close to you though so that you're able to pull out more. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, let's go.
Okay, iPhone is Ayoba. Instagram is fake. Amapiano is great. Escom is whack. Unemployment is a problem in this country. The metaverse is real. Marriage is for the strong. Entrepreneurship is hard. South Africa is an amazing place if we fix all of our problems. Yay. Maskandi is the dawn.
Ooh.
Slay queens are beautiful. Stogo is the best.
20 seconds.
Life is great. Music is my best friend. AKA was a legend. Solar power is expensive.
10 seconds.
Load shedding is the frickin' pits. Dreams are meant to be chased. The future looks so bright, so beautiful, so much money. Yes. Debit orders are the worst thing about the first of every month.
Time. That's how debit orders come in. You think you're still going, time.
And
Deductions.
Now.
Let's do a countdown.
6,
Okay.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, looking good. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
0. That's good. Oh my God. Look at us talking in TikTok.
All
Speaking
right.
of social media, you just said Instagram is fake.
Yeah.
Talk to us. What happened?
Nothing. I just think that it's not a real place. Yeah, I think people put a lot of emphasis on Instagram when it's really just your best moments, your best photo, your best side, your best angle. So it's just not a real place to me. Like more than anything, I view Instagram as a platform that I work on now more than ever. Like I don't.
Sure. More of like a marketing tool.
Yes.
You took a bit of an Instagram break recently, earlier on in the year.
Yes.
What was the feeling behind that?
I I take social media breaks often. I think because I have to work on the platform, I just have to sometimes engage and consume content, and I'm not always in the mood. So when I am able to take a break for my mental health and for myself, I do so. And that's what the beginning of the year was. And I'm going to take another one.
As you should.
Very soon.
It's so crazy to look at how social media has evolved and how far entrenched it has become in our lives. I mean, I remember when I first got my Instagram account, I was in grade 6, and it was something, and it was something that like we would just go onto now and again. But now we're making money off of these platforms, and it's so crazy. But I want to go back to that time. To when we're still figuring ourselves out, when we're still learning. What did that look like for Gugu?
Oh, Instagram was so much fun. I think just not having the pressure of needing a post to be perfect. Like, oh, I went on a walk today, I saw this, I saw that, and like boom, bam. That's it. So I enjoyed it a lot. Like I enjoyed sharing my memories, sharing my friends, sharing whatever I thought was beautiful. And then Instagram introduced stories. And that's where the switch was for me. Because as soon as there was a story, I was like, oh, something doesn't have to live on my feed. You guys can see it for 24 hours and then it's donezo. So I think naturally I just gravitated towards stories. And even now stories are my favorite way to create.
Did you also naturally gravitate towards monetizing your platforms? Or was there a bit of like pushback before you started doing that?
For sure, pushback. I think because I wasn't creating with the idea of monetizing and being able to make money. When it came about, it was just weird, you know, because you have to structure your content differently. There has to be a caption that's so long. I'm like, bro, my captions are 2 words normally, and now people have to press read more. You know, they're all of these things. But I was very hesitant in the beginning. I just wanted to make sure that the content that I produce is always authentic to me and is something that I would put out naturally on my own accord. But I guess like once the money started rolling in, it got easier.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I realized each job. And at the end of the day, I'm going to have to do what I have to do.
Wait, before the money started rolling in though, we've got a 23-ish-year-old Gugu who is starting Uncomfortable Growth.
Yes.
A YouTube channel. And her first video, she's standing on the beach with a few friends. She's letting us know what it's about. And then the next one, we're introed to you via a bit of a freestyle situation.
Oh, no.
When you look back at that Gugu, and you look at where you were in your life at that time and why you started the channel. Like, what were you going through in your life at that time?
So much. I feel like I had the biggest revelation ever in that year. I have spoken about my mental health. I have suffered from anxiety and depression. And unfortunately, my varsity career was plagued by these things. So I feel like I didn't have, like everyone goes to varsity, they have like the best time, they get their degrees. That didn't necessarily happen for me. And when I started my channel, it was my outlet. I was finally at the point where I was ready to share my story, ready to share my thoughts, ready to just normalize the fact that like, guys, we go through depressive episodes and you're anxious and sometimes you don't finish school. Even though you go to UCT, you know, and you're a scholar. And I feel like going to varsity is difficult because your whole identity is the fact that you are a student. And I didn't know who I was outside of that. So my channel was an opportunity for me to like get to know myself, to hear my voice and just to share whatever it is that was like on my mind.
Let's take it back a bit. I want to know high school Gugu. How was she compared to the person you know? We can take it back. This is the person. This is who we want to know. We want to know primary school Gugu. We want to know high school Gugu. Is there a difference between that person and this person now?
Huge. Primary school Gugu was a bit of a bully.
Okay.
I think back at it.
Fair.
I wasn't aware that I was bullying. Like, I wasn't going to take your money. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't going to be like, oh my goodness, you look terrible. But I was very much like, we're going to have fun. We're going to play netball. We're going to come to my house. We're going to swim. We're going to do all of these things. I think I've always been a bit of a planner. I was a happy child. I was naughty in primary school. But nothing crazy. High school Gugu is, I guess, like a freer version of myself now. I was a bit of the class clown. I like to make jokes. I think I was finding my voice and my personality in high school, and I was just sharing it with everyone, and I didn't care what anyone thought. But I wasn't academic, so I didn't play around with school. As long as I got my schoolwork done, I went to my school practices. I was cool. But I think I was just more a freer version of myself now, but also very hard on myself in that, you know, you're in high school, you're wanting to get into the best varsities, you wanted to make sure that your marks are good. And I had put my parents through the ringer in primary school. So I was like, I cannot afford to get into trouble in high school.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the parents too.
Yes.
Okay, so in primary school, my parents will often say that I was involved with the wrong crowd.
Okay.
I don't necessarily believe that. I just think we were a bunch of black girls and we're allowed, and my primary school didn't like that. I get it. So even when I say I got into trouble, it wasn't because I was actually doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, but it's because they were a little bit anti-black. And yeah, so in primary school, my parents were strict because of the things that had happened. So they were very much like, girl, we're watching you. And if you do not get it together, we're going to get it together for you. And then in high school, they were still very strict. I think very scared again from my primary school experience. But the more I got into it, the more I immersed myself in like the culture aspect, academics and sports, the easier they became. But still very aware that I am in high school, you know, and like in high school, kids start doing things. And my parents were like, you are not going to be doing that. So yeah, very strict, but very supportive. I was scared of my parents.
I want to ask you about this. So for people who don't have context, your parents are both academics, right?
Yes.
So do you think that played a big role in them being like, Gugu, no outside here? No after school is after school.
No
it's inside.
After school.
Yes.
A little bit. You know, I think my mom is more well balanced than my dad in that my dad is an academic. And my mom's an academic, but she believes in like living your life and having a life outside of school and realizing that you can make a name for yourself outside of outside of academia. So yeah, my dad was very strict with that. When it's time for school, it is time for school. You can see your friends after your exams, but like as for the kids that were allowed to go out during exams, that was not me at all. So yeah, there was a little bit of like a focus when it came to academics because of my parents. But yeah, they did believe in me having a balance, which was cool.
I'm curious to hear now what their reaction was when you decided to leave. To sort of
say whoop whoop. Pump the brakes.
I'm outie.
I always say the way in which I took my leave of absence was the worst, very depressed, very overwhelmed, and it was time for me to register for my final year. I had also deferred my exams at the end of the previous year, so I was writing them beginning of the new year. And whilst I was studying for my deferred, I was like, oh no, this is not working. I need to stop lying to myself. I wrote the deferred exams, but afterwards I went to hand in my resignation, and I was like, well, I'm gonna take a break from this place. And I didn't tell my parents. So I took a break and I had this time on my hands, and I started my YouTube channel. I still had not told my parents. So I'm busy, uncomfortable growing there, singing on the ocean by the beach with my friends. They're asking me like, what's happening with school? I'm low-key avoiding them. I'm like, oh, everything's fine. Until somebody sent my parents one of my videos. So my dad's like, okay, you have a YouTube channel. That's cool. You have all this time, but you're not talking to us about school. What's happening with that? I'm like, where? I hate to tell you, I'm no longer in school. I've taken a leave of absence, and you can imagine any black parents' reaction. Like, they were not for it. They were not impressed. They felt very disrespected just because we've taken you to a place to get a degree and you're deciding that you're not going to do that. And then Wes, you're not going to tell us that you're deciding to take a break. So yeah, it wasn't the best. And it did create a lot of tension between my parents and I. And I think that because of the mental state I was in, I was not ready to fully explain to them why I took the leave of absence. They knew that I struggled with mental health, but I think I never let my parents know just how bad it was. Like when we spoke, I'd always be like, oh, I had a bad day, but like, oh, I got through it, you know? So yeah, I finally gathered the strength, and then we had a full-blown conversation where I was like, this is what a day-to-day looks like for me, and this is how school affects me. And I've decided to take a bit of a break. And in the break, I've started this other platform that I'm just having fun with. Obviously, I had no idea that it would grow to what it is now. So I was like, oh, bro, I'm just having fun. And they came around to it eventually. So, but yeah, it wasn't easy. But it wasn't easy because I didn't allow them. I didn't bring them on that journey. I kind of just did what I wanted to do, and then I presented it to them.
I think it's a question I get very often from young people asking, how do I then talk to my parents? Like, how do I talk to them about me wanting to leave school? I'm like, firstly, stay in school. But if you're going to have that conversation, this is maybe how you should have it. So how would you say somebody who wants to have that conversation with their parents, how do they bring it to them?
Honestly, I think be honest about your day-to-day at school.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for me was the fact that I was lying about what it was like for me. So now telling them that like, hey, things are so bad to the point where I want to take a break was really daunting because I knew that they wouldn't understand it. They'd be like, bro, you said you went here, you did this,
Sure.
you know, like there's no recollection that they have of me struggling. So one, I think be honest about your day to day. Be honest about the things you're struggling with. Be honest if you don't like a course. Be honest. Like, how was this test? How was this exam? Honestly, it wasn't the best. I felt like I could have prepared better for whatever reasons, you know, so be honest about that. And then secondly, the biggest one is let them know before you make the decision. I'm not going to lie though. I'm also well aware that I didn't tell my parents before I made the decision because I thought they would fight me.
Sure.
So I wanted to be free first and then deal with the repercussions. But honestly, I think that especially when your parents are affording you the opportunity to go to school, it's important that you let them know. So speak to them beforehand and say, guys, I'm at a point where I'm not okay. I'm struggling and I think I would really benefit from a break. And the biggest thing for me was before, because I obviously lived in Cape Town, before moving home, I wrote my parents a letter and I was like, I last lived with you guys when I was 19. I am now 22 and there's a lot of change, you know, like I used to tell you where I'm going, what I'm doing. I was a scholar when I lived with you and now I'm a content creator. So things are very different. So I had to reintroduce them to the Gugu that existed then and the things that I needed in that time, the kind of support I needed from them, which I think helped. And had I done that before, things would have been so much smoother. So honestly, it's like communication. And I know speaking to your parents is scary, but you're doing it for you, knowing that you've spoken your truth and how they handle it is their business after that. You've done what you could. You've done the least you could do in that situation.
Earlier on, you spoke about having gone through depressive episodes.
Yeah.
And it's probably something that still happens to this day. I love the use of depressive episodes instead of depression overall, because I think it has that connotation in the sense that it takes over your life. And I'm somebody that, especially when it comes to mental health, because we're realizing that so many of us experience it, I'd rather focus on the solution as opposed to the problem, because we're at risk if we focus on the problem of romanticizing it, you know? I want to understand, because I think you perhaps had been going through a lot of those when you decided to not talk to your parents.
Yes.
You know? And perhaps it wasn't a decision. It was a thing of, I'm unable to do this. Did you go through that as a child as well? Those issues with perhaps being unable to communicate your feelings and not having the tools to deal with that. And when growing up, how did you discover and learn the tools to deal with it?
Yeah, great question. I definitely had struggled with my mental health way beyond varsity, way before varsity rather. And I wasn't aware of it because high school and primary school give you structure.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you go to school at 7 a.m. You have a full day of school. Afterwards, you have your extramurals. You're picked up. You go home. You do homework. You go. So I think the routine really helped me push through.
Sure.
And I was able to ignore some of the things that I was doing. And also being physically active and playing sport does a lot for my mental health. So I'm having a bad day, but I go play basketball. Afterwards, I go play netball. It's like, okay, today wasn't as bad. And I'm able to mask it and move on. I think the reason my varsity career was the way it was because there wasn't that structure anymore. Everything was dependent on me. So I had to go to school if I felt like it. I had to submit if I was in the mood to submit. And as soon as I had the space or the leeway to actually not do things and to not be in a routine is when my thoughts started to overcome me.
Sure.
And my anxiety and depression got that much worse. I do believe in routine now. I think obviously having some sort of structure in your day just gives you a purpose and something to look forward to. And the small things that you conquer day to day give you the courage to conquer the bigger things.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't conquering the small things, including taking care of myself, I felt like I couldn't do the bigger things that awaited me. So yeah, I think in primary school and varsity, high school and primary school, it was really masked. And then in varsity was when I started to see the cracks. And I lived in the cracks for a very long time. I think you start to just believe that you're this kind of person and things just happen this way for me. Like, oh, school is just hard. Like, oh, I just don't feel like taking a bath. Oh, I just don't feel like speaking. Like you become so accustomed. And I think you mentioned how I speak about depressive episodes and not the fact that like I'm overcome by depression. And that's a very deliberate choice of words that I've had to make the difference between now, because I have depressive episodes. They're an episode, they finish. And then that's that. Like I don't live in it anymore. And I think at that point in my life, I had taken the identity of being depressed, in that you could meet me on any other day. I could be having a good day, but I will tell you, like, I am depressed. I'm struggling with this. I had allowed for it to become who I was and not allowing for people to see what was beyond my depression. So yeah, I think I just had to the biggest part of healing for me was coming back to the things that made me feel good. And funny enough, I had to think of high school Gugu. Like, how was she able to get through it? So it was the fact that I like to read. I like to be in a universe that's not mine. And sometimes it helps. I like to be active. I like to go shoot hoops. I like to run around, just being physically active, and my body actually going through some physical pain takes away from me being in my head as much. And just knowing what my passions were. Like, again, I think school, the identity of being a scholar can really strip you of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And because I was just so focused on school, it's like I forgot about my love for music. I forgot about my love for theater. I forgot about how like wholesome I feel at church. I forgot all of the good things that were present in my life. So I literally wrote a list. I wrote a list and I was like, okay, at this point in my life, I feel like I was my happiest. What were the things that I was doing? And once I was able to, put that list together and put it into practice, I realized a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Sitting in this conversation reminds me of Oprah Winfrey's journey in that she'd gone through a traumatic past, and having the Oprah Winfrey show and speaking to everybody that she was speaking to, and just hearing all of the stories and the journeys helped her in her own personal healing journey. And I feel like Uncomfortable Growth was like that for you.
For sure.
Especially hearing how you had this perhaps strict parent household and this voice within you that you perhaps at the time when you were younger didn't know how to express.
Yes.
And so there may have been perhaps periods of rebellion or just going against how you felt, which might have been oppressed or whatever have you, And I see how you've grown, how you flourished through Uncomfortable Growth and growing into this now becoming one of the top listened to podcasts, which is now something else that you've got, How was that journey of finding your voice? And I see how it's linked to other people and hearing other people for you. What were those moments like when you're sitting and you're listening to someone telling their own story that you're like, wow, I needed to hear this?
I want to go back just a bit. You spoke on something that made me think of an interaction I had with my parents. I think it was second year. And again, I was going through it. And I think they started to pick up that I wasn't happy with what I was doing.
Yeah.
So naturally, as parents, they were like, what do you want to do? Like, what are you good at? What are your passions? And I didn't know. Again, my depression was at the top of my mind.
Sure.
So everything I liked was at the back of the class. So I couldn't recollect. And I just remember saying to my parents, I'll never forget this. I said, I think I'm good with people.
Sure.
And obviously as Black parents, they're like, bro, be so for real
What
right
does that
now.
even mean?
What does that mean? Like, how are you going to make a living out of that? And looking back at it now, I understand what I meant by that. I'm good at connecting with people. I'm good at sharing a story that people can resonate with. I'm good at maybe creating somewhat of a safe space so people can feel safe enough to share their stories. And I've also always said that the birth of my channel was the birth of my healing, allowing myself to be seen and speaking and hearing my thoughts and realizing that I make sense enough for other people to be able to resonate to my story was the confidence boost I needed to realize that I may not have been the best at school, but it was just really cool to realize that even outside of school, I'm capable. I'm capable of piecing my thoughts together. I'm capable of saying something that makes sense. I'm capable of understanding myself that much more. Yeah. So I think the beginning of it was realizing that people can take to what I'm saying. And then the second part of it was hearing other people's stories. It's one thing when people resonate with your story, right? But it's another thing when someone else sits down and you're like, oh my goodness, you're speaking to me. And I didn't even know that I needed to hear what you had shared. And I didn't know that I was going to relate to your story as much. And I think that's a beautiful thing. As people, we often think you see someone and you know their whole story. And it's you know absolutely nothing. And I think that goes back to me saying that Instagram is fake. It's a photo. It's a moment. I don't know what your day was like on the day you posted that photo. I don't know how you're feeling. I don't know what you're going through. And I think having the opportunity to sit down and hear people's stories had just made me sympathize that much more and made me realize that we're all going through it in different ways, you know, at different times, in different seasons. And that's what that's my motivation right now. That's my pushing factor, being able to sit down and also realize that people are going through things and there are things that people are going through that I haven't gone through yet, but even hearing them speak of it is something that I can maybe replay for myself at the time when I'm in that season. I think there's just a lot of power, through conversations, through hearing other people, through seeing people, through connecting with people, outside of the screen. I know I seem so anti-social media right now.
No, we know you're not. That's
I'm not. But real life connections have saved my life.
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, being able to have a real conversation with someone has been so helpful in my journey.
I think one of the things that us as South Africans don't like fall short of is having stories to tell. Like there's always something to talk about. There's always someone's story. And even though we all, live in the same country, in the same cities, we have like completely different experiences also. I want to talk more about after school is after school. So you decide to, I don't want to say pivot, like you moved away completely, but go from YouTube to podcasting too. I think all three of us have started something that scares us before. How was that? Because when you started, I mean, there were a few podcasts, sure, but like people weren't clocking top 10 like that as often. So how was that?
Honestly, I had no care for podcasting. It just used to come up in my YouTube comments all the time, like start a podcast. And I didn't consume podcasts either. So I was just like, you're just asking for more of me and I'm not in the mood. And then eventually I started listening to podcasts and I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like people come, they share their thoughts and it's just structured in whatever way, whereas sometimes I feel like YouTube is like intro, hey, like, share, subscribe. Whereas a podcast, like podcasts are different. People sometimes have an intro, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they get into it. Sometimes there's background music. Sometimes they're visual. Sometimes they aren't. Like it just felt more personal to the person I was listening to. And I could tell that they had created this own experience the way they wanted to share their story. So cool. I started listening to podcasts and then I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to do it. I bought my equipment, let's say like May of the year I started my podcast. My first episode came out in November.
Standard creative stuff.
The vibes. So I don't know. Maybe I had to warm up to the equipment. And I hate, I hate being bad at things. I hate it. So starting something from scratch irks me because I have to be bad until I'm better at it. So yeah, one day I actually started fiddling around with the equipment. I was like, okay, cool. I have most of the things I need. I just need this. And I recorded my first episode. And then, I recorded. Now I have to edit it. Now it's different from editing a YouTube video. It's like, where do I start? What distributing side streams do I put it on? Again, which delayed the process. Like I had recorded something, sat on it for 2 weeks and then eventually put it out. And I mean, I think there's a very big difference between my first episode and where I'm at now, just quality wise. And I think that speaks to the growth of the podcast and the growth of myself. And I'm proud of myself because where you start isn't always where you're going to stay, and just because the quality of that episode was what it was, didn't mean that was going to follow me throughout my career. So it's been cool. I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about how I handle myself in situations and how I feel about failure. Sometimes you make it in life and people think that because you're at a certain point, you can't necessarily go back or you can't relate to certain feelings that you've once had. And it's like, oh girl, they came back. All of the feelings. Oh, they're still there. Yeah. And it was having to rework through those feelings again and rework through my thought processes again to realize that like, babes, you're starting something new. It is the beginning, and you just have to be patient with yourself. You have to be willing to learn. You have to be willing to listen to other people and their feedback to get to where you are now. So yeah, that was my podcast.
You know what I love about after school is after school? It's such a South African phrase. Like we just, it's so us.
Yes.
And if you know, you know what it means, And I'm curious to hear about what the feedback you've received from people that not only are, part of the after school community, but also from Uncomfortable Growth. Because for you to grow to the level that you have on the different platforms that you have, there have to be people that are listening. And I mean, you do pay attention to the comments. What is everybody saying? I'm sure you've heard stories of people saying, you know what, I listened to that episode and girl, you touched my soul. It got me through this, it got me through that. What was that impact that you've had on the people of Mzansi Africa?
It's been really cool. I think it's been very reaffirming. I often say like it's cool for people to resonate to your story, but more than anything, it's helped me not feel alone in the things that I've dealt with. Just knowing that like, oh, okay, cool, this thought wasn't crazy. Like there are actually other people who are going through this and thinking this thing. And I'm always touched. Like I never really create thinking like, oh my goodness, banger on our hands. Everyone's going to love it. But it's always just me being vulnerable with whatever it is that I'm going through at the time. And I think having someone be able to relate and learn from it, and also just share the fact that they were able to relate and learn is so beautiful. And I think that's what keeps me going. That is my biggest pushing factor right now. Even when I don't feel like creating and I don't feel like sharing a story, I'm always reminded that like whoever needs to hear it will hear it. And what they need to be able to take away from it, they'll be able to take away from it. And it's cool because when I named my channel Uncomfortable Growth, I always make the joke with my friends like, okay, I did not expect for it to apply to me the way that it did. You know, I named my channel that at that point because I thought I had done the growth.
Sure.
I thought I had done the work. Like I thought like, okay, cool. I was depressed, I was anxious, and now I'm ready to share my story. And this is the ceiling. This is where it ends. And I really jinx myself because by naming my channel that, I have really undergone so much more growth, and it's not going to end and it's not going to stop. So the coolest part is seeing my OG subscribers and seeing what they have to say and be like, it is so wild that from your first video, you've been able to grow this other platform and that you're doing well for yourself. And just, they're constantly reminding me that I'm doing well and I'm doing enough, you know? So it's very heartwarming.
Wait. I have a question for the both of you.
Oh,
like,
scary.
I also want to ask you this question, Sibu, because both of you are YouTubers. Are you okay with me doing that?
Go for it. I'm so scared.
This is what you signed up for. You guys live these lives where you have to share your personal life. Everything, you're creating content around your lives. And I think, my experience is slightly different because I'm on different platforms engaging with mostly children and all of that, you know? And you go through those experiences where there's something that's happening in your life that's not so nice, and you have to share it with everybody because they've been on the journey with you, right? What's it like? And I know, Sibu, you went through this whilst we were filming State of the Strong, and it was so great to see you showing that strength. You know, like we had been going through this journey where at the end of every episode, we're asking, what's your message of strength? And I'm seeing Sibu going through something and he's just like taking it on, and I'm sure you've gone through the same thing. What is that experience like for you guys in terms of connecting with people, connecting with, you know, your South Africans, where you have to show your strength, and maybe that strength is vulnerability?
Can I do a short answer and then you go after? I believe in you. So I think for me, one, we don't have to, but it's a big thing of building boundaries also. Like, yes, you're right. We have started platforms where we are very personal and people know about our personal lives a bit. But I think building boundaries is a very good place to be. But also what I found is that when you're honest, a lot of people are just like, yeah, no, it's happened to me too. You know, you've gone through that. I've gone. I think that's why people tend to like YouTube over a lot of platforms. They actively see what they've like done or gone through or what's still to come from other people. So I think for me, it's just a matter of like being open and honest, and also having the type of community. Your YouTube communities are amazing, guys. It's like you feel like they're your internet cousins.
Yes.
And they're very much like, we love you, we support you, keep doing what you're doing. With what Google was saying, we're proud of you, we see your growth. So I think boundaries and being vulnerable it goes hand in hand.
The first thing that's coming to mind is that whenever I share a story, I have to let go of the shame that is associated with whatever I'm sharing. Humanizing myself in the moment and realizing that what I'm about to share, other people have gone through, and just because I've gone through it doesn't make me any less, doesn't mean, you know, that I'm a failure or that I'm weak, but rather choosing to share my story is strength. And what Sibu said is that, like, not feeling the pressure to share everything. I am the queen of recording an episode and sitting on it because I want to release it once I've dealt with it. I can record something when I'm in the midst of it, but in order to be able to honestly be able to take everyone's feedback and their criticism, I need to be in a better place. So I wait for that time to come. I wait to heal. I wait to be in a better space, and then I release the work, because honestly, what I'm releasing now, I've dealt with. So whatever you have to say, whatever I don't really care. Like, I've moved past it. But yeah, I found a lot of strength in using my voice. I think also I was someone who used to silence myself. I used to speak about this on my channel, being like a cool girl, meaning that you just want to be the girl who never has a problem. You never want to fight. You never want to be in conflict. You know, you just want to be easy, breezy, lemon squeezy. And I think I've had to really let go of that to understand that like my voice is valid. Like the things I have to say are valid. And like when I am upset, that's also okay. And I have a right to be able to express the fact that I'm unhappy with something in that moment. And it doesn't make me a difficult person. It doesn't make me a sad person. Also, I think sometimes when you're depressed, you just think of yourself as this miserable being who always needs to complain. And it just sucks because that's how you're feeling at the time. It's not because you're looking for attention, but rather just that like, it sucks right now. It sucks and I'm not enjoying myself and I'm not enjoying how I'm feeling. So yeah, letting go of the shame, realizing that there is power in my story, realizing that everything I've gone through was for a reason, realizing that everyone can learn from each other, and just hearing someone be able to speak about their story encourages so many other people to speak about theirs. Like, I think there's a lot of internal shame when it comes to anxiety and depression, and often people keep quiet about it. So I think just being able to say like, yeah, I didn't shower. I couldn't
get out of bed.
I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you guys. I think has allowed other people, and I'm sure will continue to allow other people to be like, okay, cool, today's a bad day. And that is okay. And I don't have to show up more than what I'm currently feeling.
Before we ask you our final question, I'm so sad that we have to go. For people who want to have their own after school is after school, for people who want to have their own the state of the strong, what advice do you have for people wanting to become podcasters, just that starting out, that May to November, you know, those people who are in the May to November, is there anything you have to say to them?
Be you. That is always my biggest thing. I think people often want to emulate what already exists, which is a waste of your time, because you can't do something better than what someone else does it. You know, we can't be another version of someone else. They've mastered being themselves. And that is my biggest, I know that's my biggest selling point. The fact that I'm me on my podcast and I speak the way I do and I share my stories the way I do is what has allowed for me to succeed. So don't want to become something you're not. Don't try become someone else. Like make peace with the way that you are. Make peace with the way that you share your stories. Make peace with the stories and the experiences that you've had, and be proud of them. Because if it wasn't for those moments, you would not be the person that you are today. And start. Like, you do not like, just start. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so that's why I hate sucking at things, because I have a vision in my mind, and in order to execute it, even when I start, I want for it to be there. And when I'm not there, I just become so defeated. I'm like, okay, well, what's the point of even starting if I can't, create on the level at which I know I can? But it's not about that. It's a process. And I think that's the beautiful thing, in that whenever you start or wherever you start, you're always going to learn. You're always going to become better, and you're going to shock yourself. You're going to realize that like, oh, I'm capable of doing this and I didn't think I was, So start and be you. Be you. It doesn't have to be perfect. The sound doesn't have to be the most amazing, but it's the fact that you trusted in yourself enough and believed in yourself enough to take the first step, which is really important.
I like what you said earlier on. I just want to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And what do they say in Pitori? Faga puñete.
Hey! You people are your own country, hey? One thing about Praetorians,
That's what they say. It's calm down. Calm down. Just be relaxed, And I'm loving the energy and the vibe that I'm getting from you. I can tell that, you've had this journey that you've gone on, and you've shared it with everybody, and there's beauty in that and that vulnerability. I don't even feel the need to ask you what's your message of strength, because I think you live in it and you show it off to everybody all the time. Like for me, what I realize is what you said about it is you have to let go of the shame.
Yes.
That's so strong, because that means you need to be imperfect. You need to show people how ugly you are. And that's what makes you beautiful. So thank you so much for coming through. Thank you so much for showing up all the time and sharing that version of yourself with people, because that's how we heal. And we heal with one another. That's another thing that I've realized about South Africans, yes, but through my journey on creating this with you guys.
Oh, it's the man, the myth, the legend. Dropping off for excuse me.
Talk to us.
Onion and pineapple pizza.
An onion and pineapple pizza by Bull Brand.
Do you want to get some of this?
I definitely want some of this.
There's Bull Brand,
I'm down.
Why did my mom never make me pizzas with Bull Brand when I was younger? You know what? The time is now. Thank you very much, Chef Kabza. Appreciate it. All right, let's do this. Gugu.
Yeah.
Please.
I get to start.
You get to start.
I'm going to take this piece right.
Are you a pineapple on pizza girly?
I am a pineapple on
Are you?
pizza girly.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm so glad all of us are here for that one.
Pineapple on pizza all day.
What is right?
Get this man back in here. Can I say? This, without a doubt, is my favorite one he's ever made.
Really?
All the other episodes have been amazing. Don't get it twisted. But this one, 15 out of 10.
Okay, so if you guys want to see what exactly Sibu was talking about, make sure that you go to www.bullbrand.co.za/recipe to get this one and all of the lovely things Chef Kabza has made for us.
Yeah.
So thank you, Gugu.
Thank you so
for
much.
being the gal.
Guys, thanks for having me.
You've been amazing.
It
was really
so much fun.
We need to, after school, featuring Lirai and
No, we can.
Thank
we
you so
definitely
much, dude. We
should.
really appreciate it.
No,
we can
guys.
see your skills here. We were even Lynn was saying, "Yo, how does Gugu do the podcast? You must make sure we are learning from the best."
More than anything, thank you to you guys. You know, I always say that in order for me to have a good interview, it's very dependent on the environment that's created and the questions that are asked. So I really enjoyed when people take the time to listen to what I'm saying and, you know, further ask a question on what it is that I've said. And you guys made me feel comfortable enough to share my journey and my story. Like, yeah, generally, it only gets as good as what the hosts are. I promise you.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, guys, thank you.
You know how to do your job, hey? Shout out to you.
No, you guys know how to
do our job.
It's been amazing. I've had an amazing time. I can't wait to sit in this chair again, but we'll wait for that day on the next episode.
Shall wait.
Thank you so much for joining me, Mdas. It has been lovely being your co-pilot.
Does that mean we're done?
That means this episode is done. We have to say bye to Kuku.
It's a wrap.
We have to say bye to our friends, and that's what we're going to do. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening, whether it was on Spotify, whether you are watching on YouTube, whether you're I'm joking. I'm but thank you so much for watching, guys. We really appreciate it. We will be back soon on the State of the Strong. We love you very much. Peace out.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.